From the first hominin species suspected of advanced thought to one of the best known prehistoric humans, here are 8 extinct human species. Before we begin, be sure to subscribe to They Will Kill You. Hit the like button and request any topics you'd like to learn about in the comments section below. Number 8. Homo naledi. In 2013, about 1,500 fossil specimens of this extinct human species were found in the Rising Star Cave Complex about 31 miles northwest of Johannesburg in South Africa. They were the remains of Homo naledi, males and females of different ages. The fossils were subsequently dated to about 250,000 years ago, placing them in the same time frame as the emergence of anatomically modern humans. Homo naledi shared some features with other members of the Homo genus, including cheek teeth and similar jaws and feet. Yet other physical features such as the femur, pelvis, or the size of the brain were more similar to those of Australopithecus, a hominin species that went extinct roughly 2 million years ago. Nevertheless, discovering such a large collection of remains deep inside the cave system challenged some previous beliefs about human evolution. It might be possible that ritualistic thought emerged earlier than the assumed period of 50,000 years ago. Ritual, in this instance, has no religious implications and is defined as an intentional and repeated practice. The manner in which the bodies were disposed of indicates that Homo naledi was capable of this behavior. Number 7. Homo floriensis. The remains of this hominin species were found on an Indonesian island called Flores. The hominin order includes creatures that are closer to humans than chimpanzees or earlier creatures such as Australopithecus. The find on Flores Island consisted of partial skeletons from 9 individuals, including a complete skull. Based on the shape of the skull, the remains were included in the Homo genus. However, the origins of Homo floriensis remain a mystery and the subject of an ongoing debate. Some evidence suggests it descended from modern humans, and other evidence indicates that it evolved from a different species in the Homo genus. Genetics, certain physical attributes, as well as the time frame of their existence seemingly support the latter. However, there were also stone tools found with the skeletal remains that bore a striking resemblance to those used by Homo sapiens. Researchers were astounded by how long Homo floriensis managed to survive on the island, as the fossils were dated 190,000 to 50,000 years ago. Before we move on, answer this question. What's a common nickname for Homo floriensis in the scientific community? Is it A. the Hobbit, B. the Giant, C. the Islander, D. the Missing Link? Let us know what you think in the comments section below and stay tuned to find out the right answer. Number 6. Homo rudolfensis. The oldest Homo rudolfensis remains, which are dated to about 2.4 million years ago, represent the oldest fossil evidence of the border between Homo and Australopithecus. It basically reflects the link between archaic humans such as Neanderthals and Denisovans and their more primitive ancestors. Homo rudolfensis is only known from a handful of fossils found in Africa, so it's hard to classify them as a species. That being said, there have been proponents in the scientific community that it should be considered as part of Homo habilis. Number 5. Homo habilis. This extinct human species is believed to have been the first to emerge in the Homo genus. In 1964, the name Homo habilis was proposed, which means handyman. It's believed that this archaic human was the first to use flaked stone tools. They were more advanced than any of the tools previously used and were mainly applied for skinning and butchering animals. Homo habilis was short, on average 4 foot 3 inches, and his arms were disproportionately longer when compared to modern humans. His brain size was between 34 and 42 cubic inches, about 50% larger than that of its more ape-like predecessors. Although more advanced, Homo habilis was not the master hunter that its descendants would prove to be. It was frequently preyed on by a saber-toothed cat called Dinophelis, which was about the size of a present-day jaguar. Number 4. Homo erectus. Homo erectus is regarded as a possible direct ancestor of Homo sapiens. Its earliest fossil evidence, which was discovered at a site in Dmanisi, Georgia, dates to about 1.8 million years ago. It had the greatest longevity of any extinct homini species, as it existed by some estimates for almost 2 million years. By comparison, Homo sapiens have been around for roughly 250,000 years. Homo erectus, or the upright man, marked an important transition in posture to bipedalism. From an evolutionary perspective, it separated from its ancestors in East Africa about 3 million years ago. Homo erectus had a greater brain capacity than Homo habilis, and it stood at an average of 5'10". They were very slender with long arms and legs. Aside from posture, another remarkable milestone achieved by Homo erectus was controlling fire. There's archaeological evidence that indicates they cooked their food. They also exhibited a form of religious behavior and were most likely the first hominins to live in a hunter-gatherer society. Number 3. Homo heidelbergensis. Homo heidelbergensis is an extinct archaic human named after Heidelberg, Germany, the town where the first fossils were discovered. A mandible was found in 1907. It was subsequently determined that its skull-shaped features both with Homo erectus and Homo sapiens, leading many to believe it to be an intermediate species. Based on the archaeological evidence from Africa and Europe, Homo heidelbergensis was responsible for a number of firsts with humans. They were right-handed, which is typically associated with the development of language in hominins. The fact that they didn't have air sacs is believed to have been an important trait for the evolution of vocal language. Homo heidelbergensis had a larger build, which enabled it to adapt to cooler temperatures. It created spears and other tools out of wood, and was also the first branch of the Homo genus to build permanent shelters. It's sometimes referred to as the last common ancestor of modern humans and Neanderthals. Number 2. Homo denisova. A DNA analysis of Denisovans indicates that they were genetically different from both Neanderthals and modern humans. Not much is known about their anatomy, as the only remains discovered so far are a toe bone, a finger bone, and 2 teeth. It's believed that they were extremely robust, perhaps similar to Neanderthals in build, and that, like them, they interbred with Homo sapiens. This was discovered through a DNA analysis of the toe bone. It's possible that Denisovans, Neanderthals, and related hybrids dwelt in the Denisova cave in Siberia for thousands of years. However, it isn't clear if they ever cohabited. So, what's a common nickname for Homo floriensis? If you guessed A, the Hobbit, then you're right. Homo floriensis was very short and only stood about 3'6" inches. This was a considerable difference, even when compared to some pygmy modern human populations. It's one of the reasons why it was proposed as a species distinct from Homo sapiens. Homo floriensis became widely known as the Hobbit in the scientific community. There were even some legal issues concerning a New Zealand professor trying to use the name in a public lecture and the Tolkien Foundation. The legal body manages the property of J.R.R. Tolkien, the writer who authored The Hobbit, and they told the professor he couldn't use the name. Number 1. Homo neanderthalensis. Homo neanderthalensis, commonly known as the Neanderthal, inhabited Eurasia from 400,000 to 40,000 years ago. They were eventually assimilated or replaced by Homo sapiens. There's been growing evidence that anatomically modern humans or Homo sapiens and Neanderthals interbred. This most likely happened after the former migrated out of Africa about 70,000 years ago. This is reflected in the genome of certain populations. The earliest known modern human in Europe was found in a cave in Romania, and it had craniofacial features similar both to Neanderthals and modern humans. Because Neanderthals lived in a land abundant in limestone caves, they became colloquially known as cavemen. They had shorter legs, bigger bodies, and were typically stockier than modern humans. This was most likely an adaptation for surviving the colder climate. They were comparable in height, but much stronger than modern humans. They also had a lower jaw, large orbital and nasal openings, large low-vaulted skulls, and prominent arched brow ridges. Evidence suggests they owned a similar speech range to that of modern humans, although the patterns for communication are unknown. Neanderthals created stone tools, both for hunting and for domestic uses. They decorated caves and objects with designs, natural pigments, as well as feathers or shells. The discovery of a flute-like instrument at a site in Slovenia may suggest that they also made music, although this has been contested. It's also believed that they took care of the injured members of their social group and buried their dead. The discovery of numerous fossils and the completion of its nuclear genetic sequence make the Neanderthal the best-known archaic human so far. Thanks for watching. Do you know other extinct human species? Tell us about them in the comments section below.